I've been in the green room for like 45 minutes. Not one of the Netflix people's even come up to me yet. What? iflix? What the fuck's that?
What? Harder, better, faster, stronger.
Is that it?
I wanted more.
More. Thank you.
Good morning. Welcome to season 3 of iflix. There's something in our hormones that the iflix business cycle runs to our chairman's business cycle, which is Wild Digital. So this is the 3rd time that we've presented iflix to Wild Digital, and it is literally season 3. The good news, when we started season 1, it was about piracy, and that's all we talked about. And our chairman just announced actually the way you launch a startup, the good news for MDEC, we will be a billionaire unicorn, because all you need to do, Patrick just said, is you get an app, you release it to the App Store to 400 million people at $1 a month, right? That's it. Yeah, it's exactly how it's been over the last 3 years, right? Man, it's tough. We started with this vision of how do you take the piracy generation, the $6 billion that's being spent on pirated DVDs every year, and bring the power of the internet to emerging markets to connect people to the content, to the entertainment that they absolutely love. Last year, we turned 2, and we're at a moment of self-exploration. We're trying to work out who we were. We sort of described ourselves as a screaming toddler, running around in multiple places. We're launching in new countries. We're making mistakes. We're fucking things up. We're trying to fix them really, really quickly. And so we were doing some self-reflection, which is who were we? And the theme of Wild Digital last year was that many of the companies in Southeast Asia had been inspired by Western parents. And the story, of course, is Netflix comes to Asia and has a baby. And it hurt at that point. We were being called a Netflix clone, and we wanted to be more. We wanted to be more. And so the process we started last year was really talking about what does it mean for a company in Southeast Asia to step away from the US vision, to start passionately, obsessively thinking about what do emerging markets customers actually need, and actually realize we've passed a big milestone this year. The US is no longer the source of innovation for most of our companies. It's no longer the source of scale, engineering resource. The real innovation now is coming out of Asia. And so as we head into season 3 of iflix, in many ways the mantra has become not Netflix. The big decisions we're making about where the product goes, it's not about aspiring to be a traditional Western business. It's finding the very unique user scenarios that are meeting the 400 million customers in Southeast Asia or the billion customers across emerging markets. It's also about introducing your own clothing line, where we moved in the last year from iflix Watch 1.0 to 2.0 that are selling outside. But in not Netflix, you go back and you revisit everything. And so iflix 3.0 launched yesterday. It'll be available to about 20% of you today, 100% of you over the next 3 weeks. And it's built on 4 pillars that are very, very specific to emerging markets. It's free. We want iflix to be ubiquitous. Now 600 studios in total. We've brought content from across the world. Over 40,000 hours of premium studio quality cinematic release movies are available. Almost half of it free in every single country. We've taken the emerging markets millennial generation and shifted the discovery pattern and moved the entire experience into a feed. iflix today looks more like Instagram and less like Netflix. We've also realized that for most people, they're never going to get pay TV. So yesterday, iflix launched with 40 linear channels. We love on demand. We love putting the customer in control of their experience. But actually, some wonderful content is still caught up in a linear broadcast. And so by the end of July, iflix will have over 80 channels, over 60 of them free. And kids. The part-time babysitter is now here. I have 5. And so it's probably a bigger part of my thought than yours. But actually bringing together all of the leading world's kids studios into an experience on a mobile device that you can hand to a young kid in a cafe and have them be in peace. So iflix over the last 12 months has had a good year. We started the path into Middle East and Africa. The business has grown from about 6.5 million accounts in December to past 15 million this week. We've grown from about 500 million minutes a month to 2.2 billion minutes a month, about 80 million minutes a day. To give you a sense, in the 3 years that iflix has been presenting at Wild Digital, we've streamed about 40,000 years of content to mobile devices. 40,000 years ago, Homo sapiens were just walking into Europe. No one had set foot in Australia yet. The Malay Peninsula didn't have people on it. All to mobile devices at an average streaming speed of about 400 kilobits per second. iflix is now bigger than the cable industry in 6 of our markets. Not yet Malaysia. We'll come back to talk about Astro later on. But is now the bigger reach proposition than most traditional television. And so as we founded last year and looked at expanding around the world, what we thought we were going to discover was a unique set of local stories, country by country by country by country. So I just want to share one early insight from iflix, which is a premium, family-oriented, censored service. What do you notice? The good news is across 32 countries, we're more similar than we thought. And if iflix ever doesn't work out, the other path to a unicorn service is turn the whole thing into porn. But the second observation actually is even more interesting. Forget the sex. It's actually when you get over to Africa, where the #1 search for iflix is Korean. That's what iflix is about. It's about building global culture and finding new audiences for extraordinary world-class content. Here's the other big shift for the last 12 months. The red line is local content. The blue line is Western content. The major mistake we made, the deep cultural bias we have of expats, is that Western content was world-class. It turns out, what do local communities want? Local communities want extraordinary local stories. And the crazy thing is that amazing local content is 20 times cheaper to bring to them. So what's driven the success of iflix has nothing to do with the traditional SVOD model. We've moved very aggressively into sport. The Bangladesh versus India Big Bash competition went from 0 to over 1 million customers in Bangladesh in the first 4 months. iflix is now the exclusive owner for the next 10 years, the partner of Malaysian football. We've brought Malaysian football back to the masses. Over 220 games a year are now free. We've now launched Formula E, the electric version of Formula One racing. Streams now live across 16 countries in the Middle East and Africa. And 2 weeks ago, we've now launched with 1.8 million customers over the last 3 weeks watching the World Cup in Africa on a mobile device for as little as 6 cents per day. In 3 weeks, we're launching iflix News. When you go back to what does the customer want, if I don't have pay TV, what's my source of information? Over 10 live news channels, over 20 editors, CNN, Bloomberg, but also local news channels in every single service. Over 300 news clips a day being released into a feed. But what's really driven it And this is part of the process of working out who you are in life. It's actually been the iflix originals. Over the next 12 months, we've created 12 iflix original television series, average of about 8 episodes each. We're now set up to shoot over 30 feature movies across our top 4 markets and 75 short-form films. To give you a quick sense of what that looks like, if you can just dim the lights a little bit.
Tired.
Kamu semua bersama aku.
So what we're trying to create is something on the content side that is on the one hand completely unique, but also somehow familiar. So if it's a documentary, it was a documentary of the Miss Universe transgender version. If it's understanding the bar scene in Manila, it's live scenes from the midget wrestling versus prostitutes bar that's in the center of Manila. It's getting down under the covers to get into the core of what the local life actually is for people. And what we've found is that when you get deep in the local markets, your opportunity to disrupt is far more exciting than when we think about the US model. So for example, Magic Hour was the #1 movie of 2016. It's a beautiful romance story. It went on to iflix 30 days after it came out of cinema and broke every record that we'd seen from a viewing point of view. Within 6 months' time, the same cast and the same crew went to New York to create Magic Hour, the television series. To give you a quick sense of scale, Disney, who I think may be in the room, so I need to say nice things about them, are one of our best Western partners. They are the iconic Western brand. Extraordinary portfolio of content. More people have watched Magic Hour, the series, in Indonesia on iflix than the entire Disney portfolio combined. The concept of what's a movie versus what's a television show has started to break down. And now what we've done in Malaysia, coming out in August, is taken Malaysia's most iconic movie series ever, which oddly enough was destroyed as a movie franchise when it was stolen before it went on a cinema release and pirated widely, but it's coming back. And we've taken the Malaysian movie budget and put it into a television series which will push the boundaries on TV in a way this country has never seen.
Suka bermimpi, tapi kadang-kala mimpi itu membunuh.
Jangan kau tahu cuma ada satu je penamat.
The office is a very happy place. Turns out that your attention span has an inverse relationship to two things: your age and the size of your device. The younger you are, the shorter it gets. The smaller the device, the shorter it gets. If you're under the age of 25 on a mobile device, which is the average iflix customer, guess what? There's two key moments. One's 2 seconds, that's how long you have. 2 seconds to get someone's attention now before they're gone. And the other is 15 seconds in when they stop and they're like, is this really worth spending time on again? And so the last 12 months we've built a studio called 215 that is obsessively focused around connecting to that millennial audience with short-form content. We're doing that in 2 ways. One is actually creating our own original productions. The other is by working with global leaders in the space. These are 3 YouTube shows. Let me give you a sense of scale and perspective and how strange the media market has got for our teenage kids. Hot Ones is an interview format. The average Hot Ones episode is a comedian and a celebrity, and there's 10 questions. There's 10 questions, there's 10 chicken wings, and with 10 chicken wings, there's 10 bits of chili, and it goes from hot to really hot. And at the end of it, I'm saying, what's the biggest mistake you ever made in your life? And as you're crying with chili, it's great television. The average Hot Ones episode is watched by the same number of people as the average Game of Thrones episode. 6 to 9 million people. We're creating Hot Ones and getting sweaty and sneaker shopping in 8 different markets over the next 6 months with Studio 215. And almost all of what I've just spoken about is about iflix becoming ubiquitous. We want to make iflix free. And so what's the key to the free ecosystem is advertising. Let me just share 2 graphs just because I think they're cool. One thing we know is that advertising dollars follow attention. Advertising money follows attention. When was the last time you went home and changed channels on your television show on a Tuesday night? When was the last time you even knew when your favorite show was on a traditional channel? What's happened is an entire generation of attention has shifted, and advertising is only just starting to catch up. So we think the paid business, 6 cents a day, is about 300 million people across emerging markets as an addressable base. But just in Southeast Asia, the television advertising budget for people who are no longer watching is about $4.4 billion. And so let me pose you this question. If it was January and you needed to very rapidly, very aggressively go and build a disruptive team across Southeast Asia to go and take a $4.4 billion market opportunity on, where do you find the resources? Where do you find how do you execute quickly? What you do is you go to the Wild Digital Sponsors page, and you start at the top left, and we asked MDEC to do it. And MDEC have been an extraordinary supporter of iflix, but they said, we're done. We're a government body, we're not going to help you build a very big advertising business. And we either could have gone down to the ASX, but they refused, so instead we went to the right. And so I do want to share and welcome Srinivas up today for an announcement that's actually very, very important for us. I think you need to come up the front, apparently, which is iflix and ADA Reach, Axiata Digital Reach, are announcing a partnership over the next 3 years to bring the new form of television to the advertising market for Southeast Asia. Tim, please welcome Srinivas up to the stage.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark. So I was about to say to Mark, actually Game of Thrones season 3 episode is my favorite episode. That's where Jon Snow, who looks uncannily like Mark, actually partnered with the Wildling Army, and there was a lot of romance and a lot of winning. At least there'll be a lot of romance and a lot of winning. So I guess just to quickly describe ADA Reach, we are one of the largest digital marketing firms across South and Southeast Asia. Very good overlap between iflix markets in our region and us. And we work with over 1,200 brands across this region, working with big guys like Unilever, McDonald's, P&G, etc., some of these. And one of the big problems they have is how do they drive reach to young customers who are switching off TV, and that's exactly what iflix provides. How do they have measurability, and how do they have context? So imagine you're watching Interstellar, Michael Caine's best, I think, poem from Dylan Thomas, and suddenly it's interrupted by a jarring burger ad. And how do you drive context plus who is watching it, at what time of the day, in what location, etc. And this is where we come in and help brands and actually leverage iflix inventory in order to drive better storytelling for our advertisers itself. And apart from that, I personally love the free layer. I don't have to pay for all this awesome content. And secondly, I can also drive a lot of discovery for stuff that I'm interested in and have intent to purchase around. So I think combining what we have to represent for our brands from a context reach to young audiences is where we see a winning opportunity to capture this 1 billion or at least 4.4 billion, and hopefully a unicorn that we want to create together with iflix. So very excited to work with Mark and team and actually taking this content across the region to all these advertisers, and we look forward to giving more revenue across.
Thank you, man. So if you're an advertiser, please grab Srinivas at the Wild Digital Party and give him money. If you are a potential Wild Digital sponsor, please remember your sponsorship of Wild Digital next year could result in a $1 billion opportunity for you. And so Season 3 is the best season. As Srinivas mentioned, that is when the wildlings and Jon Snow combine to disrupt the entire balance of power at Westeros. And I think in our analogy, I don't know whether Astro or Netflix is the Dark King and we didn't quite, but we know season 3 is the best. And so when you sat down, somewhere under your butt is an iflix VIP voucher for the next 12 months. So please join us in season 3 and have a great Wild Digital. Thanks, everybody.